right,
Here we are.
welcome tonight to everyone.
Hi,
My
everybody.
name is Shannon. I am going to be leading you through a really exciting evening. We've got Moonlight Meadery here with us tonight to answer questions and share drink recipes. And we're just really excited to get this kicked off. As you all know, tonight is part of our 90 Days Around the World promotion. You've probably seen us or heard from us all around the country. We've visited Italy, we've visited Kentucky, but tonight we find ourselves right in our own backyards at Moonlight Meadery of Londonderry. So tonight I'm going to be joined by Michael Fairbrother. He is the founder and winemaker at Moonlight Meadery. Hi, Michael. We've got Bernice Vanderberg. She is the VP of Sales and Marketing at Moonlight Meadery.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
Hi there. And we also have Chad Gibson, who is on our wines marketing team at the New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlets. And my name is Shannon, and I'm also with the New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlets, and I'm going to be here moderating any questions or comments that you may have. So please be sure to leave those either on Facebook, or if you've joined us on Zoom, be sure to leave those in the chat as well. Really, really excited to hear all about Mead. And the exciting projects that you guys have going on right now. So why don't we just get it started? I'll pass it off to you, Michael and Bernice, and what can you tell us about Moonlight?
Yes, so Moonlight Meadery started back in 2010. We started in our garage. And over the last 10 years, we've gone on to win, I don't know how many countless medals and what, but a lot of them. Our meads are sold all over the world. I saw a post this morning from Perth, Australia, that our meads were just hitting the shelves over there, and they were quite happy about it. So what is mead? Mead is a wine made from honey, and it can be dry, it can be sweet, it can be semi-sweet. And the key to being a successful mead maker or meadery is have balance and flavor and diversity. We've sold almost 2 million bottles over the last 10 years now. And that number just keeps going up, and we get a lot of great feedback from customers. But, you know, I started into this career by accident. I really was a home mead maker, a home brewer, or home cider maker. And I love the art of fermentation. And so if I think back to how I went from a software engineer into making beer, it was because I loved the simplicity of the process that I could focus on and get excellent results. And that's what's driven us to becoming one of the premier meaderies in the world. We like to say we're made locally but sold globally. And New Hampshire Liquor Commission and the outlet stores are one of our biggest customers in the entire country. So that's just a testament to the great work my wife here, Bernice, has been doing over the years. And I'll let her jump in and say a few things about that.
And I'd like to thank the New Hampshire State Liquor Division, because you are one of our greatest partners. And thank you so much for bringing our products in and supporting local. And thank you, Chad, as well, because I know Chad is a mead lover. But we really do appreciate your support.
And we're working right now to buy and secure our new homestead, which will be a 93-acre farm up in Pittsfield, New Hampshire. So it's to help a great customers buying our meat all over the world. That's helping us live our dreams. And I can't wait to someday be able to grow my own apple trees to get our apples to make our award-winning ciders. So really excited about our future.
Do you, Chad, maybe you'd like to share what you love about mead?
Similar to Michael, I'm a home brewer. We actually just bought a farm this year, and we're planning on putting a home brewery on site, about 100 square feet. So I share a passion with him as well in it. I just like the versatility of it. I think mead is kind of one of those things that people don't really understand because of how unique it is, and it's very versatile between drinking and enjoying and cooking and cocktails. I mean, it really opens up a doorway for something that people may not have tried before, and when they do, it's because it is such an art form to make a really good mead, because a lot of people have had mead and they haven't had a really good one before. This is a great example of when someone takes their passion and puts a lot of effort into it, and it's a fantastic product, and it's super unique, and I hope everybody enjoys them and gives them a shot.
Yeah, well, let me talk a little bit about what goes into actually making a mead. So we've used a lot of honey from all over the world, but we've settled on a few. So we're bringing our honey in from Brazil. So it's certified USDA organic honey. That's how we're able to make organic mead like the Sensual that can be purchased at the New Hampshire State Liquor Commission stores. Organic honey, you have to have at least 6 miles around the beehive to where the bees could possibly pollinate with no pesticides. So to get that unique quality of honey, we pay top dollar. And,
Right.
you know, but it's the ingredients that go into it that make the best possible mead, along with the mead maker. And what I like to describe to people is think about paint on a painting. It's not the paint that makes the painting, it's the artist who applies the paint to make the painting come through. And that's really, you know, my job is to guide the yeast, right? To provide the best possible environment. Yeast are the microorganisms that consume the sugar and make the alcohol. And it also makes CO2 in the same process. The CO2 comes out of solution during the fermentation process. We can add it back in after the fact. Like if you were to buy our 13.5 at the Liquor Commission, you would find that's nice and sparkling. That's a honey wine, honey apple wine that we like to say is you know, the world's strongest hard cider, more or less. But go easy on that one.
Right. And just to give you a little bit of history for those of you who don't know what mead is or where it came from, we like to refer to it as the ancestor of fermented beverages. So it predates wine and beer by thousands of years. And if you go way back, if you visit Ireland and you go to the Bunratty Castle, they will tell you about the Irish folklore of where the term honeymoon comes from. So the myth and the folklore is you would give enough, a newly married couple, enough mead to last through the first moon cycle for happiness and fertility. And the joke was when the mead was done, the honeymoon was over. So if you look at our brand, our tagline is romance by the glass, and we have some really fun names, anything from wild to desire to no need to argue, which is one of the ones that we're going to be tasting tonight, which is our Cranberry Mead, which has proven to be very popular, especially given these tumultuous times that we've gone through. So that was a really fun one to work on. So we've really adopted those fun names and sort of that romantic element into the mead brand. I don't know.
Yeah, and our No Need to Argue went on to win a Best of Show last year
Right.
in 2019 at the San Diego International Mead, Cider, and Beer Festival in San Diego. And well, I want to talk in particular about the wild blueberry mead that we have at the Liquor Commission store. So we use 6 pounds of blueberries per
This one?
gallon. So to understand that quantity of fruit, you can see how it actually stains the color of the bottle. That's really normal when you're using a lot of real fruit. So we get a lot of our blueberries from here in New England. And we take the used blueberries after we're done fermenting down to the local pig farm. And J&F Farms here in Derry, where the pigs enjoy the blueberries with alcohol just as much as probably us humans do. So we like
Living the life.
New Hampshire might have drunk pigs, but you know, California has happy cows. I think New Hampshire pigs are happier. But it's really crystal clear. As you nose a mead, you'll pick up the honey, the floral notes of the honey, the light notes of the alcohol and the finish. It's got almost like a little peppery note to it that's coming off of the fermentation characteristics from the yeast. But this is going to present like a nice dry red wine. So it's not sweet. And that's one thing people need to understand. And that's why we have a little sweetness indicator for our meads to talk about, you know, how does this present? So each bottle pretty much has a shelf talker built right onto the side of the bottle. So if you're new to mead and you're trying to figure out, well, which one of these Moonlight Meads do I want to try? You can read the little side paragraph to see what it might pair well with. Like this with a nice cheese plate would work really well. You know, you'll see legs. The legs are the way the wine cascades down the side of the glass and how it forms little turrets of liquid coming down. And that's a really good sign of a well-conditioned and fairly, you know, about 14% alcohol in this one. So it's this is a sipper. This is, and what I like to describe to people is mead has a lot of hang time on the profile. So it really, the way honey works with your taste buds is it provides a lot more bonding opportunities. So if you think about how a chef can cook with honey, honey is really this kind of bridge flavor, whether you're making savory dishes or you're making a baklava or with a cheese plate. So honey can work, and people expect honey to be sweet. So when you make a mead that's not super sweet, customers really try this and say, oh, I taste the honey. This is actually sweet. And I'm like, well, I can measure this and show you it's not. So there's perceived sweetness than actual sweetness. So you may perceive some sweetness because you're tasting the honey, and it's a trick on what the honey and the way you've ever tasted honey in your lifetime is playing on your brain. So here with the pH being low, the alcohol being a little high, and the actual sweetness being close to zero, there's no sweetness really to record at all, but you still get some of that floral honey notes. And so you might pick it up in your mind and say, that's a semi-sweet compared to like a regular grape wine. And it's just the way the honey's playing off these characteristics.
And with this being, and that is a common misconception, is that all meads are sweet, because automatically your brain says, well, it's fermented from honey, it has to be sweet. With this particular blueberry mead, I would pair this one. I find it goes great if it's nicely chilled. It is closer to a drier grape wine. And it tends to not have as much of the viscosity of the honey with it. So here's the difference. If you chill mead, the main difference is the honey will step back. So if there is a fruit or a spice in it, it'll come to the fore. So if you like more of that honey mouthfeel and you want more of the honey, I would serve it at room temperature. You chill it, that honey will step back and you'll get more of the flavors that are in there.
Yeah, we get asked a lot on what temperature to serve mead at. And I really like to tell customers, it depends on what your preference is, but usually it depends on the weather outside. So here in New England right now, we got snow on the ground, it's cold. I like my mead a little closer to room temperature. I don't tend to mull the meads that we make because I work really hard to make sure the alcohol presents so cleanly in the meads that we make. And I'd hate to boil that off. So that's the one challenge you have. If you heat a mead up over 140 degrees, your alcohol is going to vaporize rather quickly. And these bottles aren't very large. We call them romantic enough to share, but at my house, it means that for Bernice, and I better go find a beer. But you know, it's basically because of the quantity of the honey and the expense of honey. Honey is the most expensive sugar source that exists. And it takes, I think it was 6,500 bees to go to 1.2 million flowers for us to get enough honey to make 2 bottles of mead. And so that's a lot of work. And a bee in its lifetime, she'll make 1/12 of a teaspoon. And, you know, bees don't live very long, but, you know, it's certainly, something to be proud that we're using the honey in a natural way. We never boil our honey in the process. So there's a couple of schools of thought on how to make a mead. One is to boil the honey to kill any wild yeast that might exist. My method that I've followed for the last 25 years has been to know that there's yeast there, but to use a stronger yeast strain that can do the job. And it's a temperature controlled environment. So we warm the honey up to about 85 degrees Fahrenheit. At that temperature, we can add it to the water where we're going to make must. So honey and water becomes must. So that'll get to about 68, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And then we're going to add the yeast to that process and mix that in. And then we'll add nutrients are the form of nitrogen that we add over the course of the fermentation to allow the yeast to do its job that it needs. Because grape wine has a lot of nitrogen actually in the grapes, whereas honey wines don't necessarily have that right at the start.
And we use a white wine yeast, Lavalin 47. What was it? 47?
Yeah. This is why there's a mead. So we
Comes out
use
of Sauvignon
Lavalin
France. I do know that.
71B from Narrabone,
71.
France. And it's the canvas to which I create the flavors that we create. So we could use different yeasts for every batch, but we have over 70 different meads here in our tasting room right now. Some average around the same prices that the Liquor Commission offers, which are some of the best prices in the whole country, to our super expensive aged for 10 years in oak cask meads that we make. Maybe I'll talk to the Liquor Commission about some of those, but that might reset some expectations on what expensive is. Yeah, it's what I've done differently, I think, than a lot is not being afraid to take risk and to really believe in a process and a product that I make. You know, I've taught now a few times at the Robert Mondavi Institute at UC Davis in California. The National Honey Board has made mention of our beers. So we started releasing our beer this past summer. So that's under our Hidden Moon Brewing label. We do have our cider that's also under the Hidden Moon Brewing, that's called Little Apples. So we make a lot of fermentation stuff. You know, I'd say beverage, but wine's not a beverage, and New Hampshire's got legal laws around what's a beverage and what's not. But you know, if it can be fermented and it makes alcohol, pretty much tried to play in that realm, or I have plans to do so in the future at some point.
Variety is the spice of life. And just to answer Tracy, thank you, Ted. Yes, we do make what we call a still raspberry mead, and we also have a session mead. A session mead just means that it's lighter in alcohol. So typically our meads will run anywhere from about 12% and up. A session mead is going to be around about 6.5%. So we have one called Raz, which she said, which is a lightly carbonated session mead.
Yep.
One of the other pairings that I would do for wild before we move on to our exciting Christmas holiday mead is I like to chill it and pair it with any wild game. So anything like venison is a really good pairing for wild. So definitely try that.
Yeah, the Liquor Commission has at least 6 of our meads right now in stock. I am looking to possibly bring back my mango mead, which has been out of stock. And I know the folks at the warehouse have really been asking for it a lot, like every delivery, like when are you getting this one back? So we are working on that. We'll probably start the batch in January. So somewhere in the springtime frame, we looked at sumptuous back available to you again. And it'll have a nice festive new logo and label on it. And we think everybody would be happy with it. But right now there's 6 meads at the Liquor Commission by the bottle, as well as the 13.5, which is in 4-packs, I believe.
Right.
And if you think of the 4-pack, that's 4 375 milliliter cans. So that's like 2 bottles of wine and 1 4-pack. So that's a pretty good bargain.
Right. So moving on to No Need to Argue. This is our Cranberry Mead, definitely our holiday mead. I'm not sure if you can see the label. It has a label. This is a best of shown.
Yeah, the old label.
Oh, the old labels. Okay, so tell them why you called this No Need to Argue. Where did the name come from?
Yes.
Interesting story.
So it's a cranberry mead. Cranberries, rock band from when I was a kid, had a song or an album called No Need to Argue. So this was my homage to them. And it's just got this beautiful balance, right? So there, you know, this was Currant's apple pie historically has been our #1 bestseller.
Mm-hmm.
This one overtook Currant's apple pie last year, and continues to be a really decent seller for us. It's a little bit more expensive because a lot more work and a lot more cranberries going into it to make this our showcase. But you know, ask for it at your favorite liquor store. I know there's a lot more in that warehouse that could go off those shelves, and you taste this, have it with turkey dinner. Done. Game
And it
over.
makes a great conversation piece just with the name. Like I said, if you know you're going to be going to that contentious holiday meeting with your family and friends, this is the one to take with you. But I would pair this one, and again, I like this one nice, just chilled, because it does bring the tartness. Remember, when you chill them, the honey will step back and what's in it will come to the fore. Cranberry does tend to have a tartness to it. Anything from turkey to your
triple cream brie.
Your triple cream brie, that's a great pairing for it. To chicken or any one of those lighter meats, even lamb, actually, this will go very, very well with. I would pair that with that.
You guys
And
talk
now,
about the difference in glasses that you're using. Someone had commented on like what the best style of glass to drink mead in
Yeah,
is.
so we sell drinking horns if
you
your
really want to get
customers are so
authentic.
inclined. But we recommend a smaller glass. So the glasses we sell here at the meadery are 6.75 ounces. So you can get about four 3-ounce pours, or roughly from one of these 375 milliliter bottles. So it depends on how many people come around. Like I said, you can drink it slower because the flavors last longer. So there's really, I mean, we've had customers come in and say, I drink the whole bottle. I put a straw in it. You know, we
I would not
recommend a
drive.
little moderation, but you know, to each their own. And you know, crazy times indeed. But you know, we like to be able to have a small glass, not filled to the brim, but about 3/4 of the way, so that we can nose the mead, so we can
Yeah,
smell
so you
it,
can swirl.
appreciate the aroma, see the mead. So it's crystal clear. This one has a light off red hue to it, so it's not garnet in color, but it's kind of like a lightish cranberry pink hue. And you should be able to see through it or read through the color of the mead. Well, it depends, but you know, the blueberry one maybe not. It's pretty dark. But you know, the glassware makes a big difference. So if you think about how breweries and beer styles pretty much have defined a glass to each style of beer, there's a reason they do that, and it's because they're trying to showcase and highlight the aromas and the flavor of the beer, because the way the CO2 is coming out of the beer changes how it can be perceived. And the same is really true with the glass. So if you were to try to enjoy it out of a bottle, you're not really getting a lot of open volatility to the flavors that could happen as you let it breathe in a glass. You know, so as you might go to a real nice restaurant or decant some wine, you'll notice they're pouring it in such a fashion that it'll open up and express itself, and it really does change. The oldest mead I've ever tried was over 60 years old, and mead gets better with time. It's a really good mead will really showcase a lot
It'll hold
of
up.
unique interplay between the way all the pieces tie together.
And think of the main difference between mead and grape wine. The honey holds on to the flavors longer, so the flavors will linger longer on your palate. And with our particular style of mead making, our meads are not infused. So if there is a particular fruit or spice in our meads, there's no mistaking it. I think that's the main difference. And going back to cooking with mead, unlike grape wine, when the alcohol cooks out, the flavor does not. So the honey holds on to flavors. So they actually do make really, really good wines to cook with.
Yeah, we've done mead pairing dinners all over the world now. Several down in Australia, a few over in down in South America and such, and all over the United States. And so what I love about doing a mead course dinner is people don't usually expect that mead's going to work with food, but you take the No Need to Argue, or the one we're going to talk about next, our Kurt's apple pie, and you know, there's just a lot of diversity to it. Shannon, do you have any other questions coming in from viewers right now, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So you touched upon the room temp. That was a big question about, you know, what's the best degree. So let's talk about what your favorite product is currently right now.
Well, we're each going to have different ones.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you, like kids in a shop here, because I love them all, but I do have one favorite, and that's called Smitten. That's my peach mead. So for the last event was last year, but then 2 years before that, we've been invited over to the
Ooh, looks like we're experiencing
and
some
shipped my
minor-
mead over to Belgium to port this.
Sorry, we're just having some minor connection
Can you
issues.
hear me?
We can now. Looks like you're back. Go ahead. Sorry.
So I was talking about, I've got the opportunity to bring my mead to other countries to pour at festivals. And the peach mead that we make really has just an insane amount of peaches to it. And the citrus notes from the peach just really showcase wonderfully against the honey notes. Unfortunately, that one's not at the liquor store, but my favorite at the liquor store is No Need to Argue, which I think just really represents my crowning joy of, here was a batch I'd never made before, and I did a 500-gallon batch to start with, and 500 gallons, about 5,000 bottles. So, to try something at that scale, having never done it before, takes a little bit of faith. And I'm happy to have it at the Liquor Commission and showcasing it there. It really is just wonderfully complex and delightful.
Now, my personal favorite is our flagship, Desire, which is a blueberry, blackcurrant, black cherry mead. That is the mead that we started the company with. But my other favorite is one of our best-selling meads, which is a great segue into Currant's apple pie. Now, Currant's apple pie has been one of our top sellers ever since we started and has remained so. And it was just rated as in the top 15 honey beverages in the world. So we're very, very, very proud of that. Want to tell them a little bit about Currant's?
Yeah. So my best friend is named Kurt. He gave me this recipe when I started the company. And what had happened was he came over to wish me well on leaving my career and throwing my entire life savings at one thing. And I told him about this. He said, if I could ever do anything for you, please tell me. And I looked him in the eye, I said, I'll take that apple pie recipe. And he was trying to remember what I was talking about. But back in 1996, Kurt came over to my house and he brought a bottle of what he called apple pie mead. And he left it for me. And I didn't get to it right away. But a year goes by and I see this bottle sitting in my basement. And I get the bright idea to open it up and enjoy it. And I proceeded to enjoy an entire bottle by myself. I was absolutely in love with the flavor. It tasted just like an apple pie. And so I called him up the next day. I said, Kurt, I need another bottle. And he says, no. I said, buddy, I'll give you $100 for a bottle. That was amazing. I need to have some more. And he said, Michael, that was my last bottle. Now, I've known Kurt since 1982. And I know he's not going to give me, he never would give me his last bottle. So I harangued him a little further and I said, buddy, he said, well, it wasn't my last bottle when I gave it to you, but I drank the rest and that's all there is. He goes, I'll make some. And I asked him to make more. Yeah, I'll make more. Now I've known the yeah line since 1982. I know he's never going to make this stuff. So in 2007, or I guess it was 2010, Kurt comes over to the house with a bottle of mead that I made back in 1995. And I'm looking at printer, it's been that long. And I said to him, I said, why have you hung on to this for so long? And he said, Michael, you've always made the best mead I've ever had. I knew you were going to go pro someday. I want to hang on to this bottle to the day you did. He said, if I can do anything for you and your company, you tell me. I looked him in the eye. I said, I'll take that apple pie recipe. And he gave it to me. So that's why this is called Curt's apple pie. Here's to you, Kurt Demmer.
Cheers, Kurt.
One of our best.
Oh, Michael, looks like we're still having some of those technical difficulties with the connection. Let's see, Chad, do you want to talk about what we have currently in stores, what those 6 flavors are?
Yep. So currently we do have the wild honey blueberry that we tasted, the Currant's apple pie we carry, and we also have the No Need to Argue, which is the cranberry mead, which is actually my favorite of all of them. I just think it's such a versatile mead. You could use it for cooking. You could taste it, and like Bernice said, that you can chill them to really bring out the cranberry flavor more. Or if you serve it at room temperature, you'll get more of that honey flavor to it. So depending on how you want to enjoy it, it does have a lot of versatility in it. We also have a Desire, Sensual, and Red Dress. Each of them have different blends in them. They are, I think 2 of them have Currants in them, if I'm correct. The Red Dress and I believe Desire do. So those are the ones that we currently carry in the Liquor Commission. And like Michael was saying, they do have a mango one, which they are going to look to bring back. And if we have any luck, maybe someday we'll see monkey business in our stores.
Oh, that's
Oh,
right. That's your
make that,
favorite.
we could probably make that happen. That was, we'll see. We'll have to see. That's a unique mead.
It's a really fun one.
Working with bananas is a little challenging.
So it's a banana, vanilla, cinnamon mead, right?
Yes.
That one's a really fun one. Yeah, definitely. I would love to make that work. I see there was a question. Somebody was asking, is this the same mead from the mead in history? So maybe you want to answer
Yeah.
that.
So the word mead, from a mead perspective, is a category of beverage. That's like saying beer, right? So beer is a category. Unfortunately, the US government determines mead to be just a honey wine, so honey and water fermented. It can have some hops in it, but has to be under 14% alcohol to be declared a mead. Now, you can say things are a fruit mead, like a blueberry mead, which would be, or a blackcurrant, blueberry, black cherry mead. So it's got black currants, blueberries, black cherries, and honey. But I can't just say to the world that I'm a mead maker, because I have other things that we make that aren't just meads.
Right.
So from a legally perspective, it's complicated. Customers would get confused if we tried to tell everybody this, but from the oldest recipes that I have available to me, I am making meads like they would have made, with a little more refined technique that, thousands of years ago. So for example, our traditional mead that's at the Liquor Commission, Sensual, it's made with just honey and water. It's USDA certified by the New Hampshire Department of Agricultural Food and Markets Division, I think. It's a complicated name. But, so that means it's USDA approved. So they have to come in and inspect my facility and my recipe and my procedures and my logbooks and my record keeping skills to make sure that I am following the criteria for this to be listed as USDA certified organic, which means there's no sulfites, no sorbates, nothing else added. It's just honey and water. They even make sure that my yeast is approved in the same manner. And we take the yeast out of the bottle or out of the solution. So there's no, there could be microscopic levels of yeast, but they would cause re-fermentation to happen in the bottles if we were to leave them there, because they like sugar. And if there's sugar, they will ferment it and continue. So we do filter a lot of our meads. We have a very high-tech filter that allows us to get to the level of clarity that we strive for in what we produce. And I tell everybody it's a process. It's not really a product. It is and it isn't, but if you were to read the certification guidelines for judging, of meads, my meads are listed as the de facto standard for a lot of the categories, and my name's on the front cover of that style guidelines. So when they were writing these style guidelines, they came to me to talk to me about, what makes this different and how does it make this one different. So I could tell you all the glowing details that you would ever want to hear and get bored to death on listening to me talk about mead till the cows come home. But needless to say, I've been honored and privileged to have flown around the world to judge meads. I think I've judged meads now in, I don't know how many countries, a lot. But I enjoy it. It's been a deep honor to me. I try to give back to the mead making community, and I don't have anything to hide. You can come in and take pictures of what we do. I'll tell you how to do it, because like I said, it's more than just a process, it's a passion, and the passion goes a long way to figuring out, okay, if we got here, where do you need to go to get it to be excellent?
Okay, so I am
Before
going-
COVID days, when we used to be able to taste things.
Sorry, we lost you there for a moment again.
I think we're having some connectivity issues here. We say there is an art to it, and typically we say there are no secrets here. Feel free to take photos and videos, because I can give you the recipe, but there's no guarantee it's going to turn out good. The art of making mead is actually simpler than making, say, a beer. but there's definitely an art to it. And just like wines and beers, there are categories of mead, and it can get pretty complicated because the list is very long. But I think the main 4 categories that I would tell you that you should know about is traditional, which means there's nothing but honey. So there's nothing else added to it. It's honey, yeast, and water. And it does matter where the honey comes from. So a bee only flies a certain distance from the, and depending on the flowers that they get the nectar from, can change the basic taste of the end product.
And color.
And color, yes, and color. So we do not add anything to our meads for the colors. The 3 that we tasted tonight are all different. We have a red, white, and blue. It's purely what goes into it that creates the coloring. So it's either the honey, the water, or the fruits that make the color. But like Michael mentioned, honeybees only make 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. And they don't fly at night, and they don't fly when it rains. So think of honey, or the nectar, to mead is the same as terroir is to grape wine. It matters where the flowers that the honey comes from.
Now, is it your intention
questions?
to have your own bees and beekeeping when you get that new farm in Pittsfield?
Well,
Yeah, let's talk about the new location. Yes.
so I hope to have some more beehives.
Yes.
I don't expect to be making all the honey that we'll need.
We use a lot of honey.
Yeah, we would need more beehives than the entire state of New Hampshire has currently, just for the amount of honey. We use about 25,000 pounds of honey per year. 45,000 pounds of honey per year. So it's a lot of honey. That's a lot of bees.
Okay, so I am going to go ahead and introduce the 90 Days Around the World promotion. We'll get right back to Michael and Jessica in just a moment. Hopefully their connection kind of levels out a little bit. So for those of you that don't know, tonight's event is part of our 90 Days Around the World promotion, where we're offering everyone that's watching and partaking the chance to win a $2,500 gift card to the New Hampshire Liquor and Wine Outlets. So not only are you going to receive the gift card, you're also going to get the one-on-one guidance from our team, so you can be sure to pick all the right products to stock your at-home bar. So entering for a chance to win is super, super simple. You just need to head to your app store and download the Scavify app. That's spelled SCAVIFY. And basically, you're going to earn points for every event that you join with us. And you're going to need a code word for every event, which we are going to announce in just a moment. And so the more points that you earn, the bigger the prizes that you will be entered to win. So we've got various different amounts of gift cards up for grabs. So if you're not taking part in this build your own at-home bar promotion, please download that Scavify app. All of these details can be found on the 90daysaroundtheworld.com website, including that name of the app, which again is Scavify. So for those of you that are playing along, the code word for tonight is meadery. Again, tonight's code word is meadery, and it looks like they might be moving to a new location. Chad, I do want to ask you, because we talked about it before the call, about the cranberry mead that you were using for the sauce. I think you were making pork or something. People are super curious about how you can cook with the mead itself.
So very similar to wine, you can use mead as a reduction in, like they said before, when mead is used in cooking, it retains the flavor, where a lot of times when you cook with another alcohol, it'll burn off a lot of the flavor with the alcohol, whereas mead, it actually kind of concentrates it a little more. So actually no need to argue cranberry mead. You could do a cranberry reduction. You literally just take fresh cranberries, you put it in a pot, let them blister, and then you add the no need to argue to it with some orange zest, and it makes a phenomenal cranberry sauce. And like I said, it cooks a little different from regular wine, so it will burn off all of the alcohol, but it'll retain a lot of that flavor. So it almost like concentrates the cranberry and the honey in the sauce.
Love it. Well, it looks like we might have Michael and Bernice back.
Yeah, we're closer to our router. Hopefully this works.
Hopefully
Great.
we don't have the connectivity issues.
No worries. All right. So I think, were you about to try the apple pie mead?
Yes.
Yeah, we left that in the other room.
Oh, no
It's
worries,
okay,
no
we'll
worries.
talk
You can
about
get-
it. I poured him a sample, but we didn't bring it with us.
The apple pie mead consists of 4 ingredients. So it's honey, apple cider. So we don't use any water in the making of this mead. And all of our meads are gluten-free. So they're naturally gluten-free, which means that we don't add any gluten. None of the yeast has got gluten in it. So it's a traditional wine style. And so we add Vietnamese cinnamon and Madagascar bourbon vanilla beans. Now to get an appreciation for the value of vanilla beans, it's about $17,000 for a 50-pound bag of vanilla beans. And why is that such a key item for us? Because nothing else tastes as good as these Madagascar bourbon. So there's no bourbon, that's the original island name that these vanilla beans come from. And, we filter them out before we bottle, but it's a perfect dessert style mead. Pairs up wonderfully with like a nice aged sharp cheddar. It's liquid pie in a glass. I was in a restaurateur, talking to a restaurateur in St. Petersburg, Florida, and he looked at me and said, "I've had mead, mead's no good." And I said, "Well, sir, I've come a long way. And would you mind trying just one?" And he said, "Sure." And I gave him a taste of our apple pie mead. And he looked me in the eye and said, "I'll take your entire lineup." He said, "This is by far the best mead I've ever tried in my lifetime." And that says a lot for how well you can do something with simplicity. So if you think about how the human mind works in flavors, a lot of the spice beers that come out in the fall have a lot of nutmeg or other spices that make it a little not agreeable for everybody. There's very few people that have found our apple pie mead to be off flavor, so not to be what it says it's going to be.
It's very balanced.
So it's got the sweetness to remind you of the apple pie. People almost swear it has crust-like flavors to it, but it's just the way
liquid
the
apple pie.
elements ping off your memory cells for how that all comes together.
And Curt's apple pie is a perfect example of how you can compare the tastes of whether you leave it at room temperature or chill it. I like it both ways. During the colder weather, like right now, I like to leave it at room temperature because I can get more of the honey, get more of the spices. Again, in the summer months, I like to chill it because that honey steps back and I get a little more of the cinnamon and the vanilla. But I would make an adult ice cream with this. I actually have restaurants that have Curt's apple pie ice cream on the menu as adult ice cream. Or you can make a reduction sauce, just like Chad was talking about. This is a great one to use over ice cream. Or just it's liquid in a glass, it's dessert in a glass.
Drink it with your ice cream.
I've actually had customers tell me that they've made a pork roast with it too. I had another customer send in a recipe where they soaked their apple pie apples the night before in Curt's apple pie before they made the apple pie. So a lot of versatility with this one. So definitely try it out. Another great holiday Christmas mead.
Now, do you have any of these recipes on your site that people can reference? Because I'm actually thinking of myself right now.
We do have a section on our website. I'm trying to remember if we have the Curt's up there. If not, I'll definitely get it up there.
I'll let everyone know how it comes out.
See, somebody else. Does somebody else have another? Excellent. Did somebody else have another question?
Yeah, so we actually had a comment on Facebook regarding the Lunar Society, as well as the Mead Club, and like what the difference was between the two, and just
Sure.
talk a little bit about those.
Yeah, the Lunar Society is a very exclusive club that we have. These are folks that get to try some of the meads that we don't generally release to the general public. So this could be due to that it's very small batch that I might be trying, or that it's something that's been aged for n number of years, or that we've double barrel aged it, or I've made a Bochet, which is a mead made with caramelized honey that, I wouldn't want to make commercially in grand scale because boiling honey is fairly dangerous. But you can certainly create certain styles of mead. So Lunar Society has its set of perks that come with it. It's a yearly fee of $425.
And we limit
as a
it.
subscription. Yeah, the clubs are more set up to be quarterly, I believe. And you
Right.
can belong to more than one club if you want. We have like a fruit and spicy one, a dark and a fruity one. I don't really know. We have a lot of different ones.
Three different
So
ones.
Bernice runs my marketing and sales operation. Her and Missy come up with these. We've come up with some gift packages and gift box ideas. We're still trying to work with getting our act together to have a gift package for the Liquor Commission for one of these holidays at some point soon. But a little small company, we run pretty hard and we always forget the dates of how to coordinate all this sort of stuff. But we're happy to work all these things out.
And of course, we're really, really excited about the destination location, and we invite everybody once it's up and running to come out and visit us.
Yeah, it's a ways away.
And you can actually see the processes and just come out and enjoy it. It's got the most amazing views. So we hope that you will all visit us.
Yeah, we're going to start with our tasting room once we get it licensed and once we acquire the appropriate lease and the property and everything. So it's a ways off, but maybe by late spring, early summer.
Right.
Coming soon.
Coming
Yes.
soon.
In regards to the honey that you use across all of the different meats, someone has asked right here in the Zoom if it is distinguished whether the honey is raw or if it's coming raw or processed. If each bottle is labeled or how you kind of distinguish the two.
Yeah, so we buy our honey bulk. So our honey comes in essentially 2,600 pound boxes. So it's a 3-inch thick cardboard box with a poly liner, and the honey's been filtered into that liner. So the filtration process is to remove the propolis. Propolis is parts of the bees that would naturally be there. Because if you're collecting honey at a honey farm, the bees are going to dive bomb into that honey. Now, I have made mead and beer. We are actually importing a beer that I've brewed with Smog City this week. So I have my beverage vendor license here in the state of New Hampshire. So I can brew a beer at a brewery in another state and then bring it here into New Hampshire and then sell it to distributors to sell to grocery stores, etc. Complicated. But that is a raw honey. So, and we tell people that's why we filter the meads before we finish. We don't want any propolis parts in the bottles. But the reality is the honey is fairly minimalistically processed, so it's not heated to scorching heat. Before we used the organic honey, we used True Source certified honey, which meant the honey was traceable back to the beehive, because honey is one of, like I said, the most expensive sugar sources, which means it's one of the most adulterated products in the world. So people tamper with it to try to get it to go further and to make more money. And I don't want to pay for adulterated honey. I want to use the best, the truest honey sources I can.
And again, we do not, what's the word I'm looking for? We don't, when we make it, we don't boil it. Yeah, we don't pasteurize it. It stays as natural as possible, as long as possible.
Great. Okay, and so the next one is coming off of Facebook as well, regarding any trends that you've seen in the industry that you would either A, like to take part in, or B, steer clear from.
Well, that's a really open question. So the biggest trends I've seen in the last 10 years are there's a lot more mead makers now. And my hope for the industry is that, I used to be president of the American Mead Maker Association, and that's an organization that consists of both home mead makers and commercial mead makers. So that's why I share the information and the knowledge that we've learned and used over the last 10 years. We do use some high technology stuff nowadays, like we have a brew monitor, which keeps track of the active fermentation to give me the temperature, the bricks, and the dissolved oxygen levels real time. So that gives me a finer accessibility to information. I think some of the worries that I have for the world is bogus information, like to use raisins as nutrients and such. You got to be careful. You got to trust your information source. To be honest, I really don't keep too up to date with a lot of what's going on the internet because I'm pretty busy. Running 3 companies now, it takes up my day job. But so I spend a lot of time on paperwork and taxes, a lot less time on mead making. But I've got a pretty solid team. Sheldon runs my production team, and he's Bernice's son. And we've got, a lot of energy goes into what we do, but I just want the best information to go forward. And people have mead questions, I've always tried to be available to help.
And also we have to be careful now that, we're a legitimate business, and we, want to be careful of any popular trends out there, because we have a reputation to upkeep. So unless it's something that can be tried and true before, proven before it goes out to the public, one just has to be very, very careful. Thank you, Tracy. I see you signed up for one of the clubs. Thank you so much. We appreciate your support.
Great. Yeah, Tracy is one of our reoccurring invites here to these events, and we love having.
Yes, thank you for joining us, Tracy.
So I know you talked a little bit about the origin of the No Need to Argue, but does every product and name have some type of a backstory?
It does, because you gotta. So when I started the company, I wanted our tagline to be "Curl your toes with mead," because I thought it was going to be cute and sexy, right? Like this wonderful beverage everybody loves. But one of my good dear friends came over and said, "Yeah, but Michael, that can mean the opposite of what you're saying. So it could be this nasty thing, is what you toe curling could be awful." And I'm like, "Well, that's not what I meant." So the Romance by the Glass popped into my head as the tagline, and we were having some back and forth with the TTB on one of our labels. So as consumers, you may not know how crazy the world is, but we have to get every label approved. And we have to get all the verbiage on each label approved. So I wanted to call Desire triple berry. And the government pushed back and said a cherry's not a berry, so you can't call it triple berry. Okay. So then I'm trying to come up with a name, and I've got Romance by the Glass in my head. And I'm like, I'm chasing my desires, so Desire, right? And that's how the name came up. And we've got, some of them are just, you can tell I'm getting a little lazy because I've got 70 plus in the tasting room, and I've created, I think, well over 160, 180 different meads in the last 10 years. So everything having a unique name gets a little tough. But we started our first coffee mead, was called Coffee in Bed. And then Bernice had this idea for a coffee and vanilla mead. And, we wanted to call it something we thought a little risque, and so we said Kama Sumatra instead of Kama Sutra. And everybody comes into the meadery and asks for Kama Sutra, and we're like, you can't get that here. So we're trying to.
We have fun with the names.
We play pretty hard, and it's because I like to. I take a lot of things very seriously, and certainly trying to be successful is probably the hardest endeavor I've ever endeavored on in my life. And even after 10 years and trying to buy this 100-acre farm, I think I've got a long way to go. And it's because it's never ending. I love what we're doing, and it takes everything I've got to do it. And I do it all over again.
He doesn't feel like he works anymore because he lives his passion every day. I call him the Energizer Bunny. I wish I could bottle his energy. But we do have fun with the names.
Speaking of that, someone on Facebook actually just commented they love your mead, and they had a bottle of the Je t'aime, or I think yes, years ago, and they were asking if that was from your wedding.
Yes, it was.
So Je
t'aime is
Actually, we have a bottle right here.
So we bottled this for our wedding. It's made with a Tupelo blossom honey. So Tupelo honey is a tree that's not a cash crop. So nobody's paying people to pollinate Tupelo trees, but the bees love it, right? So it was for the love of the honey. And we got married on a blue moon. So it was a once in a blue moon wedding. And we have, I think the story on the back says, come dance with the bride and groom as they enjoy this toast on their, I want to rhyme and say honeymoon, but it's not quite that corny. But it probably is close. Yeah, so Bernice and I made this together. And like I said, mead ages and it can get some sediment to the bottom. We really wanted it to have a sparkle like a champagne. But the equipment I had back then wouldn't let me to put a champagne cork into the wine bottle. It broke the corker. So I went and got Belgian beer corks, which weren't thick enough to keep the CO2 in with the champagne bottle. So long story short, we gave away some bottles at our wedding to our friends as gifts. And we do sell it still here at the meadery. But it's the only mead that we make in a 750 milliliter bottle. And je t'aime means I love you in French.
Nobody says I love you quite like the French, they say.
Love it. Well, it looks like we have most of our viewer questions answered. And to those of you that still have questions, just floating around in your mind, feel free to leave them in the comment section on Facebook, and we'll do our best to get those over to Michael and Bernice so they can help answer them.
Anytime. And thank you so much for coming out tonight, guys. And thank you guys again for putting this on. And I do want to mention one more thing that I noticed. I love the image that was chosen for the 60 Days Around the World promotion, because Pittsfield, where we're moving to, they have an annual hot air balloon festival every year. So come on out and visit us.
When we get it up.
I can actually share that image so everyone can see it. Give me one.
That was a nice synergy.
All right. So right here. Oops. Yeah. There we go.
There we go.
That's oh, you know what? I actually have some of these photos as well. That'll just kind of. That must have been one of the corkers that you.
That's the corker.
That's the old school corker right there. So that's a Swiss-made corker.
And here we've got
tasting room. You can see we offer lots of options once the COVID's gone. And
yeah, these are pre-COVID. Here's COVID.
Definitely pre-COVID.
Oh, and is this your wedding?
No, that's actually that's Kurt. Kurt and Tanya got married at the meadery.
Great. All right, so here was the slide I was looking for. So yeah, there's the 90 Days Around the World logo there. And so for those of you that are still watching, if you enjoyed tonight's event, please be sure to pre-register on our 90daysaroundtheworld.com website. We are so thankful that Michael and Bernice were able to join us from Moonlight Meadery tonight. Amazing presentation. I learned so much because, to be honest, I didn't know a ton about mead, which I would think that most of our audience shares the same sentiment, but I'm excited to get out there and I'm debating which flavor I want to try first. I think I've been sold on the cranberry one though, just because of the season and
great holiday.
It's
great holiday
amazing. And like I said, it's got a little, the older they can get, the more amazing they taste. And if you do get to where you've got a little sediment at the bottom of the glass or bottle, you just decant off of it like you would a fine wine. And but you'll really enjoy the flavor on that one.
Love it. I'll keep you updated. I have your email, so I'll reach out once I get myself a bottle.
You do that.
Wonderful.
Tag us on social media. We'll tag you back.
Great. So again, for
tonight, everybody.
The code word is meadery. So we've got a handful of great events for you in the coming weeks, including a tasting with Crystal Head Vodka, as well as Dalmore Scotch. So be sure to check out the 90daysaroundtheworld.com website to find out which events you'd be most interested in attending. Like I said, if you have any other questions for Michael or Bernice or Chad or myself, please feel free to leave those in the comments below, and we will do our best to get them all answered for you.
Excellent.
again,
Thanks for coming
Michael.
out tonight, guys. Be safe, everybody.
Everyone.